Today, I want to help you ruin your life as best I can. Yeah. Yes, let's go. And not just casually ruining your life. I'm talking about a professional failure. I want you to, let's go. I want you to look back on your life and say, wow, that took commitment. I can't believe I did that. Like, wow, that bad. And you might be asking, Carter, why are we talking about ruining our lives on a Sunday morning? Isn't that kind of strange? And to that I say, yes, it is. There's enough good content on how to live a successful life, how to be a good person. Today, I thought we'd switch it up and figure out what are the essential characteristics needed for ruining your life. What are the guaranteed methods that you can employ to ruin your life today? So that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to start with step 1, which is do what is easy. Then we're going to follow it up with step 2, be dishonest. Only tell the truth when it fits you and when it's easy. Then we're going to go to step 3, believe that you're not responsible. It's someone else's issue, not yours. And step 4, believe that you know best. You know better than other people, and they shouldn't be telling you what to do. So to get us in the mood for ruining our lives today, we're going to start with a very fun clip. I'm sure many of you have seen it from a very popular movie, and let's make sure the sound is up for that, and let's roll it.
Listen, buddy, if you don't know about this game immediately, I'm gonna fly over to your house, come down to that basement you're hiding in, rip off your arms, and shove them up your butt. It's a flying body, Louisa. Thank you, cool. Thank you very much. So, guys, want to drink? We want to drink. There's a beer here. You all right? Yes, fine. Why? What are you doing? You look like melted ice cream. So, what's up? We need your help. There might be a chance to fix everything. What? You kidding? Jesus, that's
Who knows what movie that's from? Yeah. Marvel Endgame. Yeah, nice. So, and who was the main character there?
That character is
Thor. Yeah. So, and who is Thor in the MCU? What? Son of Odin, the god of thunder. He knows what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, Thor is like the god of thunder in the MCU, and there he's just on Fortnite yelling at kids. He's got a beer belly, he's got a dad bod. He's not doing so hot. He went from up here doing really well in life, like doing very important things, to just not being so great, to ruining his life, wasting his potential. I feel like now we've kind of warmed up ourselves for what we're going to be talking about today, and I think we need to find a biblical example of what it looks like to ruin one's life. What is some life-ruining, decision-making things that we can learn? Can any of you think about a character in the Bible who made some pretty bad life decisions? David? Yeah, what did he do? He murdered someone? Yeah. Yeah, Brendan? Absolutely. King Saul is a wonderful example. There's one here. Judas? And what did Judas do? Sorry, say it louder. Yes, he did. Yeah. Samson is a wonderful example. And what did Samson do? Sorry, speak up a little bit. It's hard to hear. Yep. Yeah, he went rogue. Annabelle, say it nice and loud.
Jonah, and he disobeyed God and got eaten by a whale.
Absolutely. So he got eaten by a whale. There are tons of really good examples of really bad decisions and people who ruined their lives or wasted their potential in Scripture. Today, we're going to look at King David and how he made some pretty bad decisions. And so what you need to know before we get into this passage is that kingdoms in the wintertime, at the time that King David lived, would not really go to war in the winter because, there was lack of food, it was really hard to travel, it was really cold. And so all the kingdoms would just kind of keep to themselves for the most part. And so when it started to warm up in the spring, everyone would go attack each other and start war again. And so the story starts by saying that David was at home at the time that kings went to war. So he's already not off to a good start, he's being kind of lazy, and then it says this: one evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, she is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite. Then David sent messengers to her to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. So he is not off to a very good start. He's already made a very big blunder. So we fast forward a little bit. The prophet Nathan knows about this, and he goes to David. The Lord sent Nathan to David, and we can go to the next slide. And when he came to him, he said, there were two men in a certain town, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb he had bought. He raised it, and it grew up with him and his children. It shared his food, drank from his cup, and even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal from the traveler who had come to him. Instead, he took the ewe lamb that belonged to the poor man and prepared it for the one who had come to him. So the prophet Nathan has just walked up to David and is reporting like kind of a civil law case. And so kings at that time would be in charge of like dealing out punishments for how people who had done wrong, like what punishment they should receive, or giving a verdict. They kind of served as judges as well as kings at some points. And so the prophet Nathan comes to him with this story, and David just thinks he's giving a verdict on something. And so Nathan says there's a rich man and a poor man. The rich man has lots of cattle, and the poor man only has the one lamb. And so a friend of the rich man comes to town, and the rich man wants to serve him dinner, but instead of taking one of his many cattle, he takes the lamb of the poor man. And David is angry. David burned with anger against the man and said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over because he did such a thing and had no pity. Then Nathan said to David, you are the man. And not like, you're the man, David. It was like, you are the man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel says. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house to you, and your master's wives into your arms. I gave you all Israel and Judah, and if all of that had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. And we fast forward a couple verses. Then David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. So we're going to take David as our first character to gain some knowledge from. If we want to ruin our life, we can be like David, because David failed to lead Israel as king. Why? Because he was lazy and he stayed home from the battle. That's how our story started off. He was not going to battle like was his job, like other kingdoms were doing. He just stayed home, and that was his first mistake. And then he didn't guard his heart or his eyes from his sinful desires. When he was on that rooftop and he saw Bathsheba, he could have gone inside. He could have denied his desires, but he didn't. He manipulated people to get what he wanted. He judged others harshly, but not himself. And he hid his sin from the people around him, even though it's likely that everyone in the kingdom probably knew what he had done. He killed over his desires. And so, step number 1 for ruining our life is this. Do what is easy. Do what is comfortable. For me, I find it very easy to eat lots of snacks at night when I shouldn't be eating snacks. I love snacks. I love eating junk food. It's really fun. It's easy, but it's not good for me. I like to watch a lot of videos when I should be reading, when I should be learning, when I should be working. I find those things very easy. What are some things we do that are not good for us, that is not good for our life trajectory, but we do them because it's easy? We watch lots of TV when we're not supposed to. Yeah. He says doom scrolling. Absolutely. That is probably the most applicable answer in this whole room. Who struggles with doom scrolling? Unfortunately, yes. We all need like some app blockers on our phones. Jackson, did you have something? No? What else is easy? There's lots of things we do that are easy that are bad for us. Sleeping in. Sometimes good, sometimes really not good when it's late into the afternoon. I think even more than sleeping in is not sleeping or going to bed way too late because we are, again, doom scrolling. What else do we do that's really easy, that's bad? Yeah. Procrastination of schoolwork mostly? Yeah. Same? Okay. Very cool. Well, not cool. Don't do that. Unless you want to ruin your life, which is what we're talking about today. So do what is easy. How do we put this into action? Well, if you want to ruin your life, obey your own desires. Listen to them as though you don't have any control over them. Avoid discipline, both self-discipline and discipline from the people around you, your parents and friends. Avoid feedback at all times. Waste lots of your time by doom scrolling. Lecrae says, most of the things we spend our lives chasing will turn to dust in the end. When we think about our lives as a whole, and the amount of hours we're gonna spend on our phones, the amount of hours we're gonna spend procrastinating, it's kind of a scary thought. On the off chance that you wanna have a good life and not ruin your life, do what is hard. Push yourself. Accept correction from friends and mentors. That's such a big one. Someone who's good at learning, who's willing to be open to those things is going to do really well. Accept correction from God. Listen to your conscience. When you do something and you feel yucky about it, that may be God speaking to you about you shouldn't be doing that. Obey your conscience, obey what God is telling you when you're in prayer, obey what other people are telling you. Take care of yourself. That's hard, that's not easy. It doesn't come naturally all the time. Okay, so that's our first one. We looked at David. Now it's time we take a look at the prophet Nathan. And since Nathan did a great job as prophet, prophets were meant to encourage kings to do what they were supposed to do. In the book of Deuteronomy, God instructs his people on how to live a good life. And so the prophet's job was to encourage the kings to live in that way, encourage Israel to live in that way. They were communicating on behalf of God. And so when the king wasn't living that way, it was their job to rebuke the king, to go and tell them, you're not living up to God's standards. You got to make a change. And so that's what Nathan did. He did what is hard because it was his duty. He fights for what is good and right. He risks his own safety and reputation. Later in the Bible, we see John the Baptist, who's also a sort of prophet, and he goes to Herod Antipas, and he says, you're not doing the right things. You got to stop doing what you're doing. And he ends up dying for it. Herod kills him for it. So Nathan, the prophet, is risking his life when he goes to David and confronts him. But he speaks the truth 100%. And so since he's successful, we need to do the opposite. How do we live that out? How do we ruin our lives? By doing these things. Next slide. We be dishonest. Step 2, we be dishonest. For me, I find it hard to be honest with God sometimes about the things I'm struggling with, the sin I have in my life, or the things that are bothering me, just to have a really honest conversation with him. What are some things that you guys struggle with being honest about? What are some things that you guys find it hard to be honest about? Be brave, someone, please. Yeah. Schoolwork. You lie about your grades? Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out or anything. I'm just trying to understand your answer. Okay. Yeah, allegedly. Lie about your feelings? Like when you're feeling bad, you try and hide it? Yeah? And you're speaking for a friend, right? You don't have to out yourself. Just what are the types of things that we struggle to be honest about? Yeah.
Every single thing imaginable.
Everything. That's a good answer. Yeah. You lie about cleaning your room? And you can confirm? Yes? Okay. So those are some things we struggle to lie about. How do we put that into practice about being dishonest? Well, if we want to be dishonest, we will do these things. We will only tell the truth when it's convenient, when it's easy for us. We don't come through on our promises. When we tell a friend we're going to be there and we don't show up, that's being dishonest. You know, when we give promises, when we attach our names to something and we don't come through, that's being dishonest. And if we want to ruin our lives, we will do that. And also, when we tell people we're going to do something and we don't do it, it also compromises our witness about when we spread the gospel, people won't trust that if they don't trust us. Avoid integrity. Who spoke on integrity recently? Farron did, yes. And Farron said that integrity was having the same beliefs as you have actions. So living out what you believe and believing what you live out. So don't have that if you want to ruin your life. Avoid integrity. On the off chance that you want to have a really good life, tell the truth, period. The big things, the little things, all the things. The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in the people who are trustworthy. Mark Twain says, if you tell the truth all the time, you don't have to remember anything because you won't get trapped in a web of lies. So we've looked at Nathan, we've looked at David. We're going to check out a second story now, and that is in Exodus 32. And what you want to know about this story before we get started is that Israel has just been rescued. They got out of Egypt. Moses has parted the seas. Now they're in the wilderness, and Moses goes up to the mountain, and God makes a covenant with them. He comes down, and then he goes back up the mountain, and the people are waiting for him, and they're waiting for him, and they're waiting for him, and he's there for a long time, like 40 days. And so it says this, when the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." In other words, he probably died. So you're in charge now. And Aaron answered them, "Take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, and your daughters are wearing and bring them to me." So all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol cast in the shape of a calf. What's a calf? A cow, yeah. In the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Then they said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, "Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord." So the next day, the people rose early and sacrificed burnt offerings and presented fellowship offerings. Afterwards, they sat down and ate and drank and got up to indulge in revelry. Another huge blunder by Israel. Not very good at all. And so we fast forward a little bit, and Moses eventually does come down from the mountain, and he's upset. Moses says to Aaron, "What did these people do to you that you led them into such great sin?" We can go to the next slide. And Aaron just says, "Do not be angry, my lord," Aaron answered. "You know how prone these people are to evil. They said to me, 'Make us gods who will go before us.' As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him. So I told them, 'Whoever has any gold jewelry, take it off.' Then they gave me the gold, and I threw it into the fire, and out came a calf." It just happened. I took their gold, I put it in the fire, a calf just came out. Not my fault. That's what Aaron says. Not great. Not great. Moses goes up the mountain. The people lose faith in God, lose faith in Moses. They go to Aaron, they say, "Make us a god," and Aaron goes, "Okay." And then when Moses confronts him about it, he goes, "It's not my fault. You know how bad these people are. I was just trying to save my skin." So not great. Let's learn a little bit from Aaron. So Aaron failed to lead Israel as high priest. High priest is a big deal. God anointed Aaron as the high priest. But Aaron didn't take accountability. He didn't take responsibility for the role that God had given him. He didn't take ownership of his job as high priest. He believed he was the victim, or at least he talked as though he was, and he participated in the sin of the people. Not only did he participate, he actually led the people into sin. He allowed it to happen, and he didn't fight back. And in some ways, that's even worse. So, step 3 for what we can do to ruin our lives is believe that we're not responsible. One thing that I struggle with is when I trip over like a step or something, or I drop something, or I break something, for whatever reason, my immediate reaction is just to blame it on the person nearest to me or feel angry towards them, even though they didn't do anything, they're just standing there. Like that's a gut instinct inside of me that's really wrong. What are some ways that we struggle with responsibility? That we shirk our responsibility or we don't take responsibility for when we mess up? Have you guys ever experienced that? Yeah? It's not rhetorical. What are some of the ways that we don't claim responsibility? Yeah, Jaden? What type of actions? Like what might you do wrong? Yeah?
I'll use this example. Let's say a friend wants to request they don't admit that they were the ones that did it, and they could blame you for not trying to look great yourself.
Okay. What's stuff we don't take responsibility for? Yeah. Make a mistake that what? That causes your team to lose? That's really good. A lot of you play sports, right? If you mess up and make a really bad play, the best thing to do isn't to hide it or just blame it on another teammate. If someone confronts you about it and you go, well, you made this terrible play as well, like it's hard to take responsibility sometimes. Yeah, Luna? Making a mess and taking responsibility for that mess? Absolutely, that's a really good idea. So if we don't believe we're responsible, how can we live that out? How can we ruin our life? Step 3, we can do these things. We can believe that we are the victim in the situation. We don't take accountability for our actions. We don't take God's call on our life seriously. In the same way that Aaron didn't take his call as high priest seriously and leading the people, sometimes God calls us to be a light in our schools, and we don't take that seriously. We don't take responsibility for that. Sometimes God calls us to be a good older brother or sister, and we don't take responsibility for that. We just live the way that we want to live. We don't solve problems, we just accept them. But if you want to live a good life, if you don't want to ruin your life, be proactive. Acknowledge your failure and apologize, just like we had been talking about. Take God's call seriously. Believe that you are in control of how you respond to life. Work to solve problems and confront sin. James has a really great passage on this, actually. He says the following: "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test of time, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love him. When tempted, no one should say, 'God is tempting me,' for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's full grown, gives birth to death." Okay, so we just looked at Aaron the high priest, and we're going to look at our final character, which is Israel in the wilderness. How did Israel fail? Well, they failed to follow Yahweh as his chosen people. God has elected Israel to represent him to the other nations, that they're supposed to live in a very set apart way, so the other nations look to them and say, wow, you live so differently because your God is different. They're supposed to image him and to live righteously and to not participate in the same things, and yet they give in to the very same things that the other nations are doing. They lacked trust in God, and they lacked trust in God's officials, so Moses. And so that's what led them into such great sin. That's why they did what they did. They had too much trust in their own understanding. They thought that they could save themselves if they just worked hard enough. Isn't that a trap that we fall into as well? Yes, absolutely. So, what can we learn from them? Step 4 for how to ruin your life: believe that you know best. I find it so hard sometimes to listen to what my parents have to say, the advice that they have to give. And you know what? people are right a lot of the time, and I don't like to admit it. What are some ways that we think we know best? Like what are the areas that we think we know better than other people? Yeah, Brendan? Violin? Interesting. I think most people know more than me about violin, but what else? Yeah, what's up, Jaden? Being coachable, and like what areas of your life do you need to be coachable? Yeah, listen to your coaches when you're playing sports. Sometimes you can have someone who's like super athletic and super talented in soccer or football or hockey or whatever it is. But if that person's like egotistical because they're really good at playing and they're not able to learn from their coaches and like listen to anyone, often someone who's just harder working can end up being way better just because they're teachable. So if you want to ruin your life, believe that you know best. How can we put this into practice? Well, we can talk more than the people that are around us. Believe that we're the most interesting person in the room. Assume that we're right most of the time, if not all the time. We can stop learning and growing, like Jaden said. Criticize others rather than being self-reflective. Avoid humility at all costs. Don't listen to advice. And above all, be rebellious. But if you don't want to ruin your life, then listen often. Build trust with the people around you. Assume that others have value and insight and knowledge and experiences that you might not already have. Always be a learner, always be growing, always be adapting, self-reflect often, embrace humility, for 1 Peter says this, in the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to your elders. Isn't that hard? Submit yourselves to your elders. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility towards one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. That's harder to do than it is to say. In conclusion, the one that I probably struggle with the most out of these four is believing that I know best. Do you guys have one of the four that you kind of are more prone to than others? Usually we have one or two of them that stick out more for us than for other people. Do you guys have one that you fall into more than the other? No? Okay, yes, Carlos, thank you. And that's okay. It's good that we're aware of these things. And the good news is that on our own, we have no power to change these things. We are just a slave to our desires. We're gonna keep telling lies. We're gonna keep believing that we're not responsible, and we're going to lack humility unless we rely on God's help. See, the good news is that if we believe that Jesus came and he died on behalf of our sins, that he was resurrected, and we believe that we are going to follow him for our lives, then his Spirit is there working in us, and the band can come back up. His Spirit is working in us, sanctifying us, and what sanctification means is that he's changing us every day in our hearts to be a little bit different. And so what I want you guys to take away from this message is when you go home this week, don't just try and be more honest. Don't just try and just battle your desires. Don't just try and be more humble. I mean, do try, but you need to rely on God. I was so different before I met Jesus than I am right now. Even to look back 2 or 3 years, I do not like the person I was at all. And sometimes I get discouraged about the amount I'm able to change. Sometimes I'm like, oh, why did I say that? Why was I so arrogant in that moment? But I look back a few years ago and realize, wow, God has done so much work from where I used to be, and he's continuing that every single day. And if you believe that Jesus died and rose again for you, then he's doing that same work within you. His Spirit is changing your heart to be more like him day by day. And so we're gonna take a moment. I'm just gonna not say anything for about a minute. And I just want you guys to pray that God would be working in you this week to highlight what areas you need to be more like him. And then that just asking for his strength. And there's gonna be Ian and Sophie up here to pray for you if you wanna come up, or you can just pray in your head. and then I'll close this off. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for what you sent your Son to do on the cross. Thank you that you have the power to change us, that every day you are wanting us to be people who are not controlled by our desires, but are disciplined, who are hard workers. Thank you for changing us into people who have humility, people who take responsibility, people who are honest and love the truth. Jesus said he was the way, the truth, and the life. We want to live in the truth. We want to be people who look more like Jesus every day. So thank you that you have sent your Spirit into your children, that you are working on us to change our hearts and our minds so that our actions and our thoughts and our beliefs look more real and more like you every day. Thank you that you have the power to change us. Please help us to remember that we can't do this on our own, that it takes our effort alongside your great power to be made into new creations, that we would, every day this week, spend a little bit of time with you, that would be transformed by the renewing of our minds, that we would rely on you to change us. Thank you for all that you've done for us. Thank you for these students and how you love them. Lord, I just pray that you keep shaping them into children and young adults who change their communities, who impact people by the way that they live differently. None of us want to throw away our potential. We all want to enjoy success. We all want to live in your calling. None of us want to ruin our lives. So please show us the characteristics we need to grow in. Highlight those to us. Help us to listen to our conscience and love you well. And we pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.